Previously on Rockstock Channel.
We recently released at the start of this month 3 drill holes, and then the other day another 6 drill holes. So that's 9 in total now. And with that, we've seen some incredibly rich polysite intercepts of up to 22.5%, with a nice rich zone of over 3 meters at 15%.
Welcome back to Rockstock Channel. It is Wednesday, December 4th. We're back today with another update with Haydn Daxter, CEO of Power Metals, which just distributed their first investor update and shareholder letter, highlighting his first year of activities, defining the world-class cesium discovery that is the Case Lake project in Ontario. If you'd like to receive these updates directly, visit powermetalscorp.com and register your email. Power Metals is owned 19.5% by Winsome Resources, which announced yesterday more favorable amended terms to their option to buy the Renard Diamond Mine. We'll be interviewing Winsome CEO Chris Evans next week. For disclosure purposes, you should know that Rodney and I are strategic advisors to and hold equity interests in both Power Metals and Winsome Resources. We are not, of course, financial advisors. This video is for informational purposes only, and nothing said here should be construed as financial advice. Please do your own research and read the disclaimer at the end of this video. Power Metals trades on the Toronto Venture Exchange, ticker symbol PWM.V, and it also trades on the OTC PWRMF. It has a market cap of about 63 million Canadian, or about 46 million US dollars. Share price is about 42 cents Canadian, up more than 60% year to date. You could follow Power Metals on X at Power Metals Corp, and they also post regularly on LinkedIn. And with that intro, Rodney will take it away with the Q&A.
Haydn, great to have you back on. I see in some earlier releases since we last chatted that Black Diamond Drilling, a First Nations company, is executing a Phase 3 2,000 meter drilling program, extending West Joe and the main zone. How is that program coming along?
Hey, Rodney and Howard, great to be back and give you an update on, I guess, our progress to date. So yes, we've engaged Black Diamond Drilling, First Nation company, doing a good job at present for the team. So we budgeted and planned for a 2,000 meter program, and just as they hit the ground, so did the snow. But we're not perturbed by that at present. They're sort of probably just over a third of the way through the program, which is good. So we're sort of on track at present to wrap up close to the week before Christmas, and we're aiming to get as close to that 2,000 meters as possible.
Great. And one of the things I noticed, Haydn, is we often talk about Case Lake and the exceptional near-surface cesium grades, but we don't often discuss tantalum. Just looking at some of the results from the Phase 2 drilling program, you've identified some excellent tantalum ppms. How do you as Power Metals view that opportunity?
That's a very good question, Rodney, and it's something that I think Dr. Nigel and I started discussing last month, given we saw a couple of interesting grades around the 2,000 to 3,000 ppm, and our press release before last, we had just over a 5,000 ppm tantalum assay result come back, which is incredibly exciting for the company. The tantalum is in very short supply. It's starting to see a high demand, as with cesium. And we've identified that across the property there's definitely economic grade tantalum occurring. What's interesting is when you look through our last press release with the test work results is, we have a very good grade tantalum sitting within the waste rock as well as lithium. So the possibility of producing a cesium oxide of, up to 20% as product number one, and then we've got credits on economic lithium and tantalum as well at the same time is, it's really buoyant for the company to see this multi-element factor, which all comes, at a very good priority to the company to say, okay, we're looking at lithium, we're looking at cesium, and we're looking at tantalum now when we crush and produce that concentrate.
And Haydn, I mean, if you look again at the results on phase 2, it looks like vast majority of the high-grade cesium intercepts are within 30 meters from surface. Can you just tell us more about those assay results?
Yeah, so the last two press releases we put out, which is the remainder of phase 2 drilling, there's the 4 standout drill holes in there where we've got between 3 and 6 meters hitting anywhere from 10 to almost 4% cesium, and within that there's a number of 15 to 20% meter intervals, and they're all sitting from about 15 to 30 meters below surface, which again is it's adding value to this model that we're working on of a very low capex, very low opex, high grade resource that is basically at surface. When we factor that in, it's incredibly exciting for the company. And phase 2 is again proven why we got in there for phase 3 prior to receiving those results. We started to see some excellent quality in the visuals, and then with the assays that's followed up.
And yes, the soil sampling analysis looks like you've identified some potential pegmatite areas northwest of West Joe. How much of a game changer could those opportunities be?
Yeah, we're actually very excited about those 2 anomalies that we've identified. It's something we sat down and with our structural geologist and geophysicist and a number of people looking at it, identified some very similar signatures to the West Joe deposit. We made the decision before the snow sets in to get up there, run some soils across it, and start working on potentially, some targeting for our winter program. The fact that they've come back with some really good grade lithium and then some grades in the tantalum and then also cesium, beryllium, it indicates there's a fractionated pegmatite system up there. So, now for us, it's a big potential to get in there and test with the drill bit once the ground freezes over.
It looks like it runs parallel to me to the existing.
Yes, we've got a load of sort of almost northwest sort of structural events that run through. So it sits just above, and then there's above that one there's another system that's a structural complex that's running through. And what we see commonly though is running at almost north-south of these cross-cutting fractured structure systems that have come through as well. And those 2 anomalies sit bang smack in the middle of one of those north-south sort of structural events, and we have these 2 anomaly blobs that have offset like this. So we've then run a couple of test lines through them to test the soils, and then conducted a test line at West Joe where we would we know what we'll get there with the signature of cesium, lithium, and tantalum.
And you've applied for an exploration permit. You're hoping to get that in 2025, in January, I think you said?
Yes, that's right. So basically the process in Ontario is we apply for a permit, it gets accepted by the mines department, they then send out acknowledgement to the communities and all stakeholders. So that was sent out last week. So anywhere from 30 to 50 days now, and if there's no objection to the permit, that'll be granted. So we're pretty confident that'll come back and give us the permit that we've submitted. So this new permit covers all of the previous 9 domes, then all the additional targets from Southern Geoscience. So we've got about 14 targets across the property. So this permit covers all of them. So with that, we will then commence our strategic sort of analysis of each deposit, run some soils, that we'll do. That's hence why we're doing a drone survey. We'll do magnetic surveys, structural work, soil surveys, prior to getting a rig in there. So it's a bit of a process, but we want to, go across the property and test for any potential critical mineral targets that are sitting there.
What would sort of the timeline and steps be after getting that permit?
We're really anticipating that granted towards the end of January. And if so, that would then factor into the company getting on the ground mid to end February, once we've got all the data back from phase 3, and then testing a few of those additional targets, and including those 2 where the soils are. That would be our priority to test there as well, plus a couple of areas around West Joe.
Okay, and another thing, Haydn, is don't sort of look at, obviously the prospects are so good with what you're dealing with, but Power Metals has got other projects besides Case Lake. Just remind us, of some of those, and if there's any plans for those.
Yeah, it's good. Another good point there, Rodney. We have 2 properties in Quebec that was part of Winsome. And in part of the deal of Winsome earning up to close to 20% of the company, we acquired 2 properties from those guys. So they sit across the border in Quebec, not far from Val d'Or. So a lot of lithium targets there, a lot of fractionated pegmatite systems. So there was previously some geophysical work done by a consultant to Winsome. We had a team on the ground there middle of this year just to do a follow-up on soil sampling and rock chip sampling. We found a number of fractionated systems that look, they're alluding to something's happening there, but we haven't really focused a great deal on that given the cesium aspect of it. But it's there's definitely a lot going on there that warrants investigation. We also have a property to the west of Case Lake near Hurst. That's a property that we staked. Brunswick had some ground there, and again, it's an LCT system, so the possibility of seeing some cesium is real. But as we staked the ground there, and there's been no previous work on there, our process basically is to consult with the First Nation community that's there first. So we've met with them, we've discussed with them, we're awaiting to hear back from them to progress into a form of an exploration agreement before we put in for an exploration permit. So we're taking our time with that one. We're in no hurry with it. I think we've got enough on our plate with cesium at present, but that's our process there. So it's we've got 3 projects that are there's a lot of work to be done on those, but at present we're not in any hurry to aggregate those.
And then to the main event, Haydn, you released some test work results yesterday that were just outstanding. The looks of it to me, the highest grade cesium concentrate produced out of any of the existing operations. You must be really pleased with those numbers.
Thanks, Rodney. And yeah, look, I think overall we're incredibly pleased, happy, satisfied. There's a lot of words to describe that, but it's a fantastic milestone for the company with the work that we put into that, and to see that we can produce from a basic ore sorting concept on site, which is incredibly fast, low capex, and produce a 20+% grade of cesium oxide, which is an incredibly economic and saleable product, is amazing for the company. The fact that we can produce a 5%, a 10%, a 15%, we can scale it up and down and sort of look at what we're doing with that, which is that bodes well. We've spoken with a number of companies that we're looking at a 10 to a 15% or a 15% above. So the fact that we could accommodate different markets for that, and we know at present that Tanco is approved with their permit to treat less than 1.5% in waste materials. So the fact that they're doing that and spending capital to process sub 1.5% cesium, it just adds more value to what we're sitting on here. And one interesting point, there's 2 interesting points when we look at all of that test work from our point of view, is that we're sitting on some fantastically high grade concentrate numbers with a very simple process. We also, if we ran everything through, including all of the waste, we would still come back with a product that's close to a 5% cesium oxide, which is still a very saleable project and has basically zero waste. And then the last point that's really exciting for us is we're sitting on a waste product there that has economic grade cesium and tantalum sat in it. So there's multi-element capacity, and the avenue of 3 different streams of income from that simple processing on site. So yeah, it's incredibly good news for the company. That was phase 1 of our ore sorting process. So that was a 60 kilo batch sample. We currently have a 250 kilo batch sample with TOMRA in Germany that will work with the team from Australia and SGS on tweaking what we know now from the results and running through a larger sample of 250 kilos. And then that will then also then go off to produce a number of cesium chemicals. So, the fact that, as stated before, that we can basically crush, screen, sort, and have a product of that high value and quality is amazing for what we're looking at.
And on that front, I mean, you've got the concentrate, so now that's being converted into cesium format. When can we expect an update on that?
We're really hoping and pushing the guys at present to have that done. Look, I would love to have it done by the end of this year. I know that they're getting backed up a little, so we're seeing what we can do. But my goal is before Christmas, and I'm awaiting SGS to come back to us on that. It may just be early in the new year at this stage, but we're hoping we can get some cesium formate, and included with that would potentially be some cesium hydroxide, which is potentially what is going to hold things up. But I'm confident we can aim to have something out by the end of this year.
And, once all this work is done, Haydn, can these samples then be used to engage with downstream users as samples?
Most definitely. That'll go off for, part of our chemical production is sort of the metallurgical testing work that will go. They'll review the mineralogy also of the product, and that's vital then to our downstream users to understand, the impurities and the requirements of the product, its capabilities in producing chemicals. So, we want to eliminate all of that now. So when it comes time for pushing out our PEA in the middle of next year, that it's we've accomplished a lot of work already, and understand that we have a very viable project.
Great. And then with all this work going on, when are the sort of your thoughts and planning around an original or an initial mineral resource estimate?
We just received and published the final drill results for phase 2. So all of that work now will go together, and we'll put that into the data room and start getting that together to commence on putting together the mineral resource estimate. And then, given that we aim to put out an exploration update in the next couple of weeks on the first few holes we've drilled. So we're probably going to add those holes into this mineral resource estimate as well. So what we'll aim to do, though, rather than to wait for those, is we'll start now with everything we have and just keep adding in the holes, so that we're aiming for the end of Q1. So, ideally around March sometime next year is to have our MRE close to or put out is our target at this stage.
Fantastic. And then just broadly, in terms of government interaction and First Nations interaction, those all still going well? Everyone facing in the same direction?
Yeah, look, on the government side, our last meeting we discussed the support. We met with the minister in Toronto, and we've got he's requested us to follow up early in the new year with another meeting and provide an update on the company. So I think, the Canadian government and the Ontario government are very keen to advance this critical minerals project in Ontario. Their support is definitely evident with what we've seen to date, and the fact that we could be the only cesium plant operating in Ontario is definitely a big feather in the cap for us to push that, and the government is definitely well behind that. First Nations wise, we've put a lot of work into constantly consulting with the First Nations. We're seeing a lot of, shared dialogue now, which is fantastic to see. The fact that we have water sampling ongoing with them, we share that data. We've got their drill team is on the ground, so that's First Nation Drill Company. We're commencing some baseline work, and we'll engage the First Nation people there to sort of work with us to do some of that environmental work, and so they can understand our intentions on the project. So that area is progressing exceptionally well, but it's also an area that we know that we have to dedicate a lot of our effort and time to. It's something that we can't sit idly on.
Great. Haydn, it's all going great guns here. Everything's happening. I keep a tweet explaining how this is near surface, high grade. It's not going to be materially expensive to mine, which I think people need to get their heads around is looking historically at other projects, they've been mined out in less than a year, I think. Is that right?
Yeah, sort of. Well, Sinclair was about total mining time was 3 months. Preparation to get in there, but then mining time was 3 months. Tanco's been ticking along for a long time, but it's the mining side of it on the Cesium is small, and same for Bakita. It was mined out in a very short space, and they're never very large, these deposits. But I guess the payday is very handsome if you can find
small volume, with the low mining, which is great. Okay, great. We look forward to catching up again with some new results, but lots of awesome things going on, and we'll look out for that test work on the formate. Thanks very much again for to share the update.
No, my pleasure, Howard and Rodney. It's always a pleasure, and I guess being able to share some of these fantastic results that we're seeing to date is testament to some of the good work the company's doing, and we're looking forward to pushing out a few more and a really fruitful 2025 for Power Metals.
Fantastic.
Excellent, thank you.